Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Democratic Newsroom, where each week we pick up one of the big contentious issues of the day, making the headlines, and all of us editors in the India Today newsroom get together, kick it around, express our opinions and debate. On this episode of Democratic Newsroom, I have with us a guest of honor, Kamlesh Kishore Singh. He heads up our digital operations. You're seeing him for the first time here on Democratic Newsroom, but get used to it because he's going to be a permanent fixture. Preeti Chaudhary is with us, Pooja, Nabila and Gaurav, and I, of course, am Shiv Arur. The big headline that we're going to be debating this week on Democratic Newsroom: does India need a caste census? Now, remember, caste census has been a running theme right through the election campaign, fronted largely by Rahul Gandhi of the Congress party. And now, after the elections, it's become a recurring theme once again. In fact, becoming the subject matter of an angry flashpoint recently in Parliament between Rahul Gandhi and top leaders of the Modi government. So let's kick it off with the big question: does India need a caste census? Kamlesh, you answer that question first. Where do you stand?
Yes, a big yes. It's not about caste census. India first needs census. The last one was carried out in 2011. 2021 was, it's every 10 years. 2021 was the COVID year, so we thought it will be later, but I think it's getting very late. There are lots of things connected with the census, including the next including deciding the parliamentary seats next time, because the numbers will go up. Now, caste census, I think in 2011, the caste category was there in the census, but the results were not announced. We do not know who is what. Then, in the last 3-4 years, we have realized that state parties started in Bihar, where they can't conduct a census. Census is the authority of the central government. So they conducted what is called a caste survey.
Yeah.
And then they got some results, and based on those, they announced a policy which is in the courts right now. We need a caste census to know how the reservation system has worked in this country. The last one was Mandal Commission in 1980. That's like 45 years ago. Has the quota system that came into place in 1990s, has that helped in pulling some castes out of the other backward classes category? Remember, the reservation is not based for the backward castes.
Yeah.
Is not based on caste.
So you're saying it's required to see whether the entire affirmative action process has worked at all. And
yes.
It's been too long since there has been a status check on this.
Yes.
Okay. Preeti?
I completely agree with Kamlesh. Other than the politics, we definitely need a caste census. And why I feel so is, as Kamlesh pointed out, the last census was in 2011. But, and that's where the big question mark comes in. Just to put some facts out there, India as a country is the biggest country to roll out an action plan based on castes across the world. And what are we basing this action plan on, which reservation is a part of that we give, is actually on a caste census which took place in 1931. So in 2024, we are basing all our policies, reservation policies, on a caste census which was conducted in 1931, because 2011, the details of the demography
nearly a century ago.
Was not made public. So we are actually operating blind while, I have a very basic thing. If we are going to have reservation in this country, if we are going to have policy making on the back of caste in this country, then we need to know what that caste calculation actually is. You need to understand and maybe work with those numbers, because then you're working blind.
Okay.
If there's reservation, there has to be a caste census. And we are not in a place in this country where we can forego reservation.
Okay,
is what I
So we'll get to, in the second round of questions, we'll talk about the politics that has, erupted over caste census. But the basic question, Gaurav, do you agree that a caste census is required, and if you don't have it, then it's just flying blind with reservations?
So affirmative action is required in a country like India. For far too long, the correct action hasn't been taken on the basis of correct facts. When you do a census, you get to know who needs to be brought up, how much, as Kamlesh and Preeti rightly pointed out, whether the Mandal Commission reservations, are they actually working, are they not working? But you need to refine the system. You know, it has to be a nuanced debate. This politics around it, when you say jitni abadi utna haq, that will lead to majoritarianism, and that can have devastating consequences, because if it's jitni abadi utna haq, and if you look at Hindus as Hindus, then others will actually say ki 80% Hindus hai, jitni abadi utna haq, what happens to the others? So it has to be a very nuanced debate. You have to keep politics, while you cannot keep it out of it, but you have to ensure that you approach this issue with an India first perspective. You have to ensure it's done to benefit the country and not to benefit certain political groups or parties, and ensure that you practice what you preach. For example, when you talk about reservation and you talk about taking forward SC, ST, OBCs, you don't deny the same SC, ST, OBC reservation in a Jamia Millia Islamia and Aligarh Muslim University, because that is where you're playing vote bank politics in the name of caste census.
Okay, I'll get into the politics of caste census also, and go into deeper into some of the points that are raised by the three of you. Nabila, where do you stand? Is it a clear answer that it is required and the politics can be ignored for the moment because the larger good of getting that data that's required to sharpen reservations, etc., is the need of the day?
It is a must to keep politics aside. It's unfortunate that politics still play by caste, and I would want to wish away caste system, but it's again unfortunate that we're still staring at it 75 years after Indian independence. But my limited point here is that if there is reservation, there must be a caste census. You need to understand what, the population of each community and caste, so that you better allot the resources that are available. But 75 years and running for India to still continue with the reservation system, should there be an end point? And when will that happen? It can't be indefinite. We can't keep, carrying out, giving reservations to communities. And even if we are, what are the side solutions that we're coming up with to ensure better education, to ensure better health facilities to those communities? So whichever political party is asking and urging, pushing for a caste census, I'm sorry, they don't have a credible history when it comes to actually treating their own, caste, who voted for them well. I don't want to get to the religion or the caste that I'm referring to here. I'm sure you'd understand. But parties that say that we are for the Muslims or we are for a certain community haven't really done much to uplift them, as much as just firing from their shoulders to play politics.
Okay, Pooja, I left you till the end because I sense that you don't like the idea of a caste census. You think that today's India has no place for it. Why do you think that?
I've not been able to convince myself of a caste census in 2024, and the reason is I feel, Shiv, that it's primarily to target the Hindu community. And why I say that is because, for example, if the caste census is being done, then it should also be done for other communities, because on surface all religions are equal. But we know, for example, there are the Pasmanda Muslims who say they are extremely discriminated against the Sayyids and the Ashrafs. So you'll need that demarcation to help understand if other communities have that too. For example, the Jat Sikhs and the Dalit Sikhs, there are segregated Gurdwaras in some places in Punjab. So my understanding is,
Punjab
if this
already
is,
has a reservation.
so that's what I'm saying, that no, if it's, then it can't be Hindus in caste and others as religious communities, because then we have to aim at welfare. If that is the opinion here of the Netas, if you're looking at welfare for the discriminated or the oppressed, which also needs a certain more objectivity to it, it cannot be that left, right and center. It needs to be looked at all communities, including the Christian community as well.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, quickly.
I totally agree. What Pooja also, I think, is referring to is that you need better definitions when it comes to reservations.
Correct.
And that will also be, that outcome will come only with the caste census. You can't do away with caste census if you want to better give a reservation allotment.
Kamlesh, wishing politics out of a caste census and the debate around the caste census is asking for the impossible. I don't think that's ever going to happen. And after all, it is the politicians who will bring
And
it
should
in.
not.
But the concerns that have been raised by everyone here about the manner in which, a caste census also is a kind of national opportunity, a milestone to make things better and move things forward. How much of a concern are the points that are raised by everybody about different communities, the fact that, it may not be done the right way, political pulls and pressures, etc.?
See, when you look at in the light of the reservation system, it applies only to Hindus right now. So we should stick to this. I know we think that Hindus are being divided in the name of caste, but Hindus are already divided in the name of caste. Thing is, in the last 40 years, I have seen, as I grow up every year, I see that there have been castes that are listed as backwards, but are politically empowered, have been empowered, and it's a good thing. has the political empowerment of those castes helped them in getting economic and social progress?
Yeah.
Can they still claim to be, can they wear this badge of backwardness to claim benefits while other castes in the same category continue to lag behind?
Who've not got those economic benefits.
Yes. In some states, you can't imagine a non-backward caste person to become the CM. You know, because now they were, historically they have been backward, but no longer. There are some castes, they have made leaps, forward. But that political empowerment, that coming to power, has that helped them in getting their community up? If that is how it is, then the system should be tweaked. But how do we do that? Unless we know. We do not know the health, education, and other indicators. How do these communities, castes, perform right now? Because the last one happened in as Preeti said, 1931.
Political pitfalls, Preeti?
You know, I'll tell you what, I'd like to just steer clear of political pitfalls right now, because there have been many, and I think our history has been marked with that, Mandal Commission, or even before, or rather, let's just go back for the person who actually brought it forth. Look at Ambedkar. Ambedkar was a proponent of reservation, says we should abolish it after 10 years, but we couldn't do it, right? You are in a place right now, and I do think, when we speak of a casteless society, casteless India, or even merit, it's an illusion of the privileged. And I'll give you an example why I say that. And I'll just personalize it a bit. I've had an army upbringing, and for anyone who's, got a semblance of it, is one of the most secular upbringing that you could possibly get. I didn't know my caste. And that was a privilege I realized when I was in college, because then I stood aside somebody who has been persecuted on the basis of caste. And that's when I had that conversation with myself. I'll give you another example. My first election was the UP election. And I remember from Noida taking a car to Gorakhpur. It was a long drive. And my driver, whose name was, I will not forget, Abhinesh Kumar. And he laughed and he spoke with me, and I understood the gravitas of the situation later, because if you see the entire highways dotted by dhabas, and you will see those billboards which will say, Pa Abhilash Sharma or whatever ji. I never understood ye pa ka kya matlab hota hai. And then he explained, iska naam Pandit hai.
Yeah.
So, and his entire being was, he's a Kumar because he's trying to hide his identity. Because he's actually, a scheduled caste, and he doesn't want to give out, because, what's strange, and he actually taught me that even within the Dalit and the scheduled caste, there's a Brahmanical order. There are some higher up than the others. And that's when it actually dawned on me that why we need a caste survey.
Yeah.
Because for him, like what Kamlesh was saying, there are certain castes that have been able to, get the benefits of the reservation policy, but there are some which haven't been able to get it.
Yeah.
To make our reservation policy better, we need
The caste census is required to know that.
to deliver social and economic justice in our country. We need to know who hasn't got it.
Sure.
And that's the only way to find out.
Yeah.
I have a counter here, and again, for me, the counter is personal for a similar reason. For example, if census is done today, I will be
Pooja,
mentioned.
I'll just come in and and I'm sorry to bring it up, but that's what we are discussing. You are a Pandit. Right?
Listen.
So you
hear me
speak
out.
from privilege.
See, no, but that is what you're assuming. Let me make my
You're
point.
not?
Preeti, let me make my point.
Right.
But so what? I mean, you just put her in a corner. You're a Pandit. That's so unfair.
It's a perfect point. It's a perfect point that Preeti has made.
What's
How is it unfair? We're discussing caste. We're discussing.
Preeti, it's a perfect
Pooja's
point.
been addressed. Let her answer, then Gaurav can come.
Today,
Yeah.
if census is done, a caste census, my name will come as a Hindu, and because I'm born in a Brahmin caste, it will be mentioned as such. But I also come from a community that had to witness the worst brutalities, which had nothing to do with the caste system. We did not get the benefits because of the supposedly privileged Brahmins. Tell me, what did Kashmiri Pandits get as a Brahmin benefit when they had to start from a garage and a shop and literally rebuild their life? It is assumed.
Pooja, I have empathy for you. I have deep sympathy for you, but that has nothing to do with
Preeti,
this.
understand what I'm saying. Let me finish it. While I know people from other communities, for example, the Muslim community, or let's say any other community, who have done fairly well because of the welfare schemes, because of the reservations that have been a part of it, and I then want to wonder, how does Brahmin really help me for a time, for a moment, for communities? that have absolutely been assumed to be privileged. While they'll tell you
It's not
they've lived
assumed.
the
No,
worst
that's the
life.
worst thing to say. It's not
Preeti,
assumed. You are
Preeti,
privileged.
you are
I am
questioning
privileged.
our lived experience. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That there, for example, Hindus in Punjab will tell you they feel discriminated. There will have to be a more refined system to understand how caste is where.
All right, so
And
Muslims,
this
one
is
second.
what should
The
not be
Muslims-
ignored. You know, this is unfortunately this is what this entire debate ignores. You know that angst
Assuming
that
your
Pooja,
Brahmin thoughts
yes,
sahi hai,
who-
badhiya
you know Pooja's angst, and not Pooja as an individual, but Pooja as Brahmins, their angst also has to be taken into account. You know, when you're moving forward, you know,
Census karo.
Exactly. Census karo, census karo, system ko refine karo. System ko refine karo. This system does, you know, every system needs to be refined after maybe 25 years, 50 years, 75 years. Now the system needs to be refined. Economically weaker sections, they need to be brought up better.
I was just trying to make that point. Actually, Pooja makes
Yes.
a point here about Hindus feeling marginalized because of the large reservation that's been given to smaller communities. What I believe is economically weaker sections should be kept at a pedestal, and that should be the priority, right? Each
It is
community.
there.
How do you
Yeah,
find
it is
out?
But
That's in the general category or
It's
already
already
getting
there.
a
a lot of the
10%
Brahmins
reservation?
also. I mean, I know that the caste system is deep-rooted in India, but even many Brahmins believe that they are being deprived. Even if they are poor, they don't get the benefits that the
Absolutely.
minority
So
get.
it is already there. It is already there.
So
It is
EWS
already
quota
there.
should be actually given priority rather than caste,
No,
community, religion.
both. It cannot be one at the cost of other. It needs to be done. You know, this is where you bring up your society step by step. It's not a utopian concept. That's exactly why it needs to be debated at length by
But
our
why
lawmakers,
can't it be-
by our lawmakers in parliament. Keeping that vote bank politics aside. Again, I know it's quite a utopian concept,
Yeah,
but the
Kamlesh,
fact
but
that
why
our
can't
framing,
it be based on
the
income?
founding
Why can't
fathers
it
were
be
able
based
to
on
do it.
income alone?
They were able to do it. They were able to debate it.
Please
Let's do it
understand.
once again.
Let
Please
Kamlesh answer.
understand that from Pooja's community, one of the greatest from Pooja's community was Jawaharlal Nehru. His surname could not denote the privilege that he had. So he had to add Pandit in the beginning. It is a privilege. And he also insisted.
For
that it is a-
families, for people
You know
who have suffered
what
immensely.
Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru
assumption-
enjoyed
exactly.
in 1947.
Every-
What happened in
No, no,
1947?
I'm not
Precisely
This is
the
my
point.
problem.
I am
This is my
sorry.
problem.
Those realities are changing in
To-
2024.
I'm not talking about what happened in Kashmir with the Pandits. I am saying it is a privilege to be a Pandit.
True. That's
You-
it. We've got to accept
what
it.
happened was horrible, but the fact is, the caste is a reality, has been a reality for years.
It's a privilege to be a Pandit in Tamil Nadu, a Brahmin in Tamil Nadu.
No longer.
and-
No.
Exactly.
No, no.
So, you
It's
know,
not a
that's my
privilege now.
point. Let's wake up to realities of today,
If,
my
Gaurav,
friend.
if being
But
Pandit
it is a
was a
privilege.
privilege, I wouldn't have been scared to flaunt it because the moment I mention it, even if as a matter of coincidence, the jibes and attacks thrown at me for a simple issue
Pooja,
where
you're
I
confusing.
feel no,
You're
Preeti,
confusing.
no,
We
I
are
will
talking
speak
about
from
the
my
entire
experience.
country, Pooja.
I will
We are
speak
talking
from
about
my
the
experience. No,
entire
there are
country.
many like me who believe that there
Let's
has
not
to be
even begin to talk about
there has
Muslim
to be
marginalization.
there has
I'm
to be
sorry,
a
and
more
the hate and
understanding.
communal rhetoric on the Muslims.
There is
Despite
absolutely
having reservation for Muslims, the kind of hate
One of the
that stands
things
in the way of Muslims,
I agree.
the kind of hate,
I agree.
and we're all okay with it and complicit. That's what's shocking.
The reason I have not interjected during this particular segment is because I wanted to actually reflect, how many different debate points there could be, even from a personal perspective. And that's the reason I didn't want to get in and, shift the conversation elsewhere. But I'm just wondering, Kamlesh, and once again I'll begin with you, is that can the public trust? See, not everyone watching this debate unfold about the caste census is going to know everything about it. All of us here have traveled into the interiors of India, and we have, a better sense than many people in public, perhaps, of what the realities of caste are. So I'm wondering, should the public have faith that a caste census will be carried out in a constructive way that actually
And
takes
fair.
the country forward?
Yes.
Or is there a risk?
I think that's what the government must be working on. And I trust that they will work on this because there is no going back now.
Yeah.
It has become an issue. It started from Bihar, then Rahul Gandhi carried it forward, and there are many people within the BJP who think it will be a good idea to do this right away.
Sir, but I still want to know why can't it be done on EWS? Why is it not your
Because
money
there
and
It
your
is part of the
income?
census. EWS
But
is
is the-
part
Why
of
can't
the
we
census.
do away with
Again,
caste
like
system and caste
like-
hierarchy and just...
A good point here, Shiv. Why I feel
Why?
EWS,
You cannot-
everyone
Because
wants
India
it because
cannot.
everyone believes there can
It's
be a
a reality
good
of our country.
suppressed, oppressed.
Why should even the Muslims get
SC,
more than what they deserve?
My concern is
why should the...
like the Pooja Khedkar case is a classic example of how there can be a proper non-creamy layer status and how openly it is misused against SC/STs, that they deserve to be getting those welfare. They need to come up and they need to be equal like everyone else. But are there within the community itself that are not letting the real underprivileged come to the
It is
front?
true.
Why?
And
True.
shouldn't
I
there be
agree.
a cap?
And what
Shouldn't
is-
there be a cap on how many generations can
Yeah.
actually benefit from a
No,
reservation
but how do you
system?
put that
One
cap?
second,
No, I have an issue. I have a question with that. Why you cannot put a cap is because if the discrimination has taken place over
Generations.
thousands and thousands of years, as is argued, if not hundreds and hundreds of years, how can you cap it in 75 years? That is the argument that's given, and you know, and
if
so
you're
you
saying
will.
speak about realities of today, then I
Yeah, yeah.
say
No,
speak
no.
of realities
So
of
you
today.
have to.
The
That is
reality
the reality
See
of
the
today.
dirt in the UPSC
That-
system. India today was the first
So
to actually
cleanse that
expose
dirt.
it. That
That
Pooja
is
Khedkar
where you have
story
the
really
debate.
exposed the kind of dirt. How many people taking the OBC non-creamy layer quota? Yeah?
No, so that's
So
my point.
therefore
You
you
fathers,
cleanse the
forefathers
system.
have all been
So the
civil
caste
servants.
census
one
you're
second.
saying is the...
Generations of money,
Nabila.
but yet they get the benefits so
That
only
is
on the
Preeti.
non-creamy layer.
exactly
Preeti.
the reason why you need a caste census.
And
Because
you
then
to have
I don't think
systems
so.
in parliament.
I agree with the caste census.
that's
My
why
point
you
is
need
as
a
long as there's
census.
reservation, caste census is a must.
Okay,
But my
wait.
point is, where is the cap and a limit?
We're into our...
No, it's needed. And Pooja, just one limited point that I
Go
want to
ahead.
make. Because yes, you said that because of being a pundit, you get these drags, but you need to contextualize it. 74% of this country lives in the villages, right? Where if you are a pundit, that's a privilege. Why? Because you still don't have to put your chappals on your head and cross a village, which is dominated by pundits.
Okay.
Where a Dalit still cannot ride
Correct.
on a horse, go
Correct.
through a Thakur
Correct.
village.
Very rare, but yeah.
But yeah, it's
Now,
no, I'm giving extremities.
Preeti,
If you're,
let's
I'm
look at
just,
one,
it's
the
still
awareness
happening.
and the outrage that has come over the years. As a Brahmin, I can tell you, I have lived in Delhi. So my point is, I have also seen communities around me. I have never felt in any way, and I will say this in all genuine concern, in any way that being a, so to say, a Brahmin or born in a Brahmin family has helped me in any way. In fact, as a general category student, the kind of effort I've had to put in, despite all the difficulties that the family and community
Pooja,
has
the
seen,
sheer fact you got
That's
access to an
urbanization.
education,
I
you got access to
that was thanks to
education,
my parents.
teachers.
That
Come
was
on.
that was thanks to my
Urbanization,
parents.
urbanization somehow
Has made it
makes
better.
caste irrelevant.
You know,
As
and if
a-
you look
it
at
does.
look at
Which
the
is a
judiciary.
very good point,
Look
but
at-
which
But
should
that's
be
not the reality
India's
of
big
it.
Okay, but
interest.
there
That
have
should be
been
India's big
surveys.
interest.
But there have
One,
been.
education. Permit me, Preeti. You need education. You need to debate this threadbare in parliament and not make it into a political rhetoric to win elections, as is argued, divide the Hindus, unite the rest, win elections and come to power. That should be avoided, because if you're genuinely doing this for the
It's
benefit
not-
of the
I
country,
genuinely-
Education
if you're
is
doing
a
it
fair point,
Politicians
because
do
if
not
focus-
do anything
if you
for
go
the
into
genuine
the
benefit
No,
of the
interior
country.
if
then
you go
I'm
into
so, we have to
interiors of
rise.
this country
We've
with
had politicians,
education for all,
we've had political
irrespective,
leaders
there will be a
like
change.
Baba Sahib
No, but you
Bhimrao
do need-
Ambedkar,
one
who
second.
actually did it
Look,
for the nation.
no, but
He
you
did
do
not
need-
win
I do-
elections. He did not win elections.
He-
Remember?
Okay,
I just wanna
one
make-
final point
Yeah.
from my
Preeti, you
end.
can end, yeah.
There is caste discrimination, there is caste system. It's been oppressive to a certain people, and without a doubt on that, let's not have a reverse casteism as well.
No, there is a bit of, in terms of representation, there have been surveys conducted, and we've got to get to grips with it and understand. Look at the Indian judiciary, 73% is upper caste. OB 3% of that is 13%.
Okay.
The
That
SC/ST is less than
needs to sort out
6%.
But
the
at the
judiciary
Yeah,
same
but
time,
it's
sort that out.
one second,
I'm
it's
gonna
not
take the
about
last
the
bit.
judiciary.
You know, I
this
agree.
is not about an XYZ, it's the larger issue that you're facing
No,
in the
since you
country.
raised
Upper
judiciary-
caste is a relative term.
Okay.
I
Yes,
agree.
guys.
I just have a quick
That
word to
also
say
I
that
Yeah.
caste reservation, first of all, is a means and not the end, right? So we've started it, we've given reservation, now there's a time
Where
to
is that
cap
end
it.
point?
There's somewhere that you got to stop.
We're out of time. We're out of time, guys. I'm going to have to ask all of you to now wait till the next episode, which I believe is going to happen, because caste census is clearly not an issue we're done discussing. But I agree, and I think all of us agree, that a casteless society can only be the dream of those who are privileged. But the truth of the matter is, I share Kamlesh's cynicism when he says, it's nobody, no entity, no political party is going to do this with the larger good in mind. There will be short-term interests, and that's one of the reasons why it bears endless debating on all of the aspects we've just raised here. on India Today. I leave you with one final thought on Democratic Newsroom. After 3/4 of a century of independence, with strong laws against caste discrimination, caste violence in this country, how are caste evils still so rampant? That's still something to think about. And that's one of the reasons why we're continuing to talk about reservations and the caste census. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next time.